20,000 yuan? Xia Shibei's sudden revelation shocked their classmates, drawing sharp breaths from the onlookers. They couldn't believe Jin Yazhen had lent such a large sum to Yang Xian, only to now deny it. Xia Shibei's tearful account of her hard-earned money for college ignited anger in the crowd, who condemned Jin Yazhen's actions as unjust and unreasonable. As tensions rose, Jin Yazhen's attempts to defend herself only fueled the flames of indignation. Finally, Xia Shibei's revelation about their non-existent relationship and Tang Luo's interjection brought shock and disbelief to everyone present. Xia Shibei's sudden change of mood startled Jin Yazhen. However, Xia Shibei spoke before she could even utter a word. "If it weren't for you, why would I have lent so much money to Yang Xian? Your words were promising back then, but now you're going back on your word, saying that you haven't borrowed any money from me? What about the 20,000 yuan I lent you then, was it fake or something?" Xia Shibei's allegation made their onlooking classmates draw in sharp breaths. 20,000 yuan? Although many of them came from well-off families and were given quite a lot of pocket money, 20,000 yuan was still a big sum to them. They did not expect Jin Yazhen to have lent so much money for Yang Xian, and right now, she even denied having done that. That was so shameless of her. You know my family's living conditions. My parents had left me on my own device, and all I have is a few hundred yuan every month. I have to go out there and work in order to feed myself. All I receive in return for a month of hard work is 1,500 yuan. I won't even spend it on my meals, yet I bought meat for you guys. These 20,000 yuan was my hard-earned money, I was saving them for college." There were tears gleaming in Xia Shibei's eyes. The rest of the crowd were instantly infuriated by the injustice. "Jin Yazhen, you shouldn't have done that. It is absolutely indisputable to return the money you borrowed. You can't be that unreasonable as a person." "I agree. Xia Shibei worked so hard to earn a living. Do you think she was doing that to feed the two of you instead?" Although they didn't like Xia Shibei, they weren't fond of Jin Yazhen either. It was Jin Yazhen's fault that she was always flirting with boys. Besides, the matter ignited sparks of justice within them. They knew Xia Shibei's life hadn't been easy back then, but they didn't know it was that difficult. And in the midst of her difficulty, someone refused to return the money they owed her. How obnoxious. Being chastened by everyone, Jin Yazhen got anxious. Hurriedly, she argued, "What nonsense are you talking about, Shibei? Yang Xian was your boyfriend. Even if he borrowed money from you, it was only because you were willing to lend it." Jin Yazhen really was wronged. She had never agreed to be a guarantor to Yang Xian. At most, all she had ever done was make a few positive remarks about Yang Xian in front of Xia Shibei. There was no way she would become his guarantor. Even though she knew that Yang Xian had borrowed quite a lot of money from Xia Shibei, she didn't know that he had borrowed this much. Didn't he tell her it was only a few $1,000s? What boyfriend? Xia Shibei's voice turned very cold. "Jin Yazhen, I'm finally seeing right through you today." She kept a straight face. "Did anyone ever see us holding hands? Who here has seen me with Yang Xian before?" Everyone shook their heads at that. They had never seen Xia Shibei with Yang Xian, indeed. "I've seen Yang Xian and Jin Yazhen shopping together though, they seemed intimate," someone said. Jin Yazhen grew even more flustered. "There's nothing between Yang Xian and I. At most, we share the relationship of a loaner and a debtor." Xia Shibei's voice was loud and clear, "That's why I'm being suspicious. Jin Yazhen, what do you mean by insisting that Yang Xian and I are a couple? If the two of you were a couple, then Yang Xian wouldn't have to return you the money he borrowed." Someone shouted. "Right. That is it." The rest of them nodded in agreement. They were all still self-aware at this stage. As far as they were concerned, the money spent when a couple had gone out together wasn't supposed to be asked back, so that is it. Xia Shibei cast a deep, gloomy look at Jin Yazhen. "That explains why you tried so hard to defame me, by calling Yang Xian and I a couple. That's what you were thinking all along, right? More than that." Tang Luo chipped in suddenly. "Jin Yazhen even said that you cheated just now." In that case, you would be the one at fault. And that makes them even less at fault for not paying your money back. His words put an appalled look on everyone's face, *it. That's extremely scheming. My goodness, they must be daydreaming to even think of getting away with it, weren't they? The moment Tang Luo finished, everyone looked stunned. They didn't give it much thought before, but now in hindsight, there was so much complexity to the matter. So that's her real intention. Xia Shibei shot a furtive look at Tang Luo, before shifting her gaze back to Jin Yajin. I was wondering what made you pull me aside and babble so much today. It turns out that's what you were planning on. I did not. Jin Yajin was on the verge of a meltdown. I never. It was true that she didn't like Xia Shibei, especially because Xia Shibei's look today had given her a sense of crisis, driving her to reveal the two's relationship. She wasn't planning on anything more than that. Xia Shibei bit her lip, her face looking deeply hurt. I regarded you as a good friend of mine, but that is how you treated me. You willingly became Yang Xian's guarantor, claiming that he was in an urgent need of money. I only lent it to him for your sake. But I never thought that you guys would defame me in such a way, and you even denied having borrowed my money. Jin Yajin, that's not how a good friend should behave, Tang Luo added. The others nodded in unison. If that was how a good friend should act, then they would rather live without friends. You worked so hard and ate simple meals, yet you bought them good food. TSK. Tang Luo's words made the rest of them sympathize with Xia Shibei even more. Look at how Jin Yajin and Yang Xian dress themselves up and what they eat. They don't seem to lack any money. They eat much better than I do, okay? They have seafood and meat for every meal. I don't even get to have those. Someone said. They couldn't be spending Xia Shibei's money, could they? The heated discussion made Jin Yajin's face turn paper pale, looking flurried and nervous. I did not. I never borrowed any money from Xia Shibei. Yang Xian is wholly responsible for that. Neither are the two of us a couple. It's Xia Shibei and Yang Xian that are together. However, not a single soul believed Jin Yajin's words. Xia Shibei never had any interaction with Yang Xian, okay? Let alone being in a relationship with him. Right, do you think we are all fools here? Jin Yajin, it is only right and proper to return the money you owe, Tang Luo concluded. Jin Yajin, I'm begging, could you two please do me a favor and return me the 20,000 yuan? Xia Shibei was at the brink of tears. Jin Yajin was rendered speechless. The reproachful looks from the people were driving her insane. At that moment, the bell rang and the teacher walked in. The crowd had no choice but to disperse. However, before they were dismissed, they shot sarcastic and contemptuous glances at her. Jin Yajin returned to her seat with cold limbs as chaos raged in her brain. The students started passing notes around once again. Jin Yajin and Yang Xian's matter was spreading like wildfire among the class. Xia Shibei sat in her seat, looking completely at ease. There was not a single hint of sadness on her face at all. A note was passed to her. Did they really borrow 20,000 yuan from you? Xia Shibei cast a look at Tang Luo and wrote down the answer. Of course they did. Sure enough, Yang Xian didn't borrow so much money from her. It was at most 10,000 yuan or so altogether. The remaining 10,000 yuan was compensation for the emotional trauma she had been through. She only asked for 10,000 yuan, which was a fair and reasonable price. With her current net worth, it wouldn't even be bold of her to ask for 10 million. However, if she asked for too much money, others wouldn't believe her either. They all knew she was broke, didn't they? Tang Luo shot her a look and did not say a word, but there was a hint of smile in his eyes. Jin Yajin restlessly waited until dismissal. She wanted to look for Xia Shibei to explain things, but Xia Shibei, who wasn't even willing to bother with her, ran off to the washroom instead. When Xia Shibei emerged from the washroom, several girls stopped her in her tracks. So you are Xia Shibei? The girl in the lead questioned in a low, deep voice.